The Trans-Pacific Partnership is a trade agreement among 12 Pacific Rim countries concerning a variety of matters of economic policy, which was reached on 5 October 2015 after 7 years of negotiations. The agreement's stated goal had been to promote economic growth, support the creation and retention of jobs, enhance innovation, productivity and competitiveness, raise living standards, reduce poverty in our countries, and promote transparency, good governance, and enhanced labor and environmental protections, among other things. The TPP agreement contains measures to lower trade barriers such as tariffs, and establish an investor-state dispute settlement mechanism. The United States government has considered the TPP as the companion agreement to the proposed Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, a broadly similar agreement between the United States and the European Union. Historically, the TPP is an expansion of the Trans-Pacific Strategic Economic Partnership Agreement, which was signed by Brunei, Chile, New Zealand, and Singapore in 2005. Beginning in 2008, additional countries joined the discussion for a broader agreement: Australia, Canada, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, the United States, and Vietnam, bringing the total number of participating countries in the negotiations to 12. Current trade agreements between participating countries, such as the North American Free Trade Agreement, will be reduced to those provisions that do not conflict with the TPP, or that provide greater trade liberalization than the TPP. Participating nations aimed at completing negotiations in 2012, but contentious issues such as agriculture, intellectual property, and services and investments prolonged negotiations. They finally reached agreement on 5 October 2015. Implementing the TPP has been one of the trade agenda goals of the Obama administration in the U.S. On 5 October 2015, Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper expected signatures on the finalized text and deal early in the new year, and ratification over the next 2 years. A version of the text of the treaty, subject to legal review for accuracy, clarity and consistency, was made public on 5 November 2015, the same day President Obama notified Congress that he intends to sign it. A number of global health professionals, internet freedom activists, environmentalists, trade unions, advocacy groups, and elected officials have criticized and protested against the treaty, in large part because of the secrecy of negotiations. The agreement's expansive scope, and controversial clauses in drafts leaked to the public. Membership: 12 countries participated in negotiations for the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. The 4 parties to the 2005 Trans-Pacific Strategic Economic Partnership Agreement in 2006, and 8 others. Potential members: the accession of other parties to the agreement is possible for APEC members and any other jurisdiction the parties reach agreement on. After application for membership, a commission of parties to the treaty negotiates conditions for accession. South Korea did not participate in the 2006 agreement, but showed interest in entering the TPP, and in December 2010 was invited to the TPP negotiating rounds by the U.S., after the successful conclusion of its free trade agreement between the United States of America and the Republic of Korea. South Korea already had bilateral trade agreements with some TPP members, but areas such as vehicle manufacturing and agriculture still needed to be agreed upon, making further multilateral TPP negotiations somewhat complicated. South Korea may join the TPP as part of a second wave of expansion for the trade agreement. Other countries interested in TPP membership have included Taiwan, the Philippines, and Colombia, as of 2010, Thailand and Laos as of 2012, Indonesia, Cambodia, Bangladesh, and India as of 2013. According to law professor Edmund Sim in 2013, many of these countries needed to change their protectionist trade policies in order to join the TPP. The largest economy in the Pacific Rim not involved in the negotiations is China. According to the Brookings Institution in 2013, the most fundamental challenge for the TPP project regarding China was that it may not constitute a powerful enough enticement to propel China to sign on to these new standards on trade and investment. China so far has reacted by accelerating its own trade initiatives in Asia. In 2013, it was thought that China might still be interested in joining the TPP eventually. An academic analysis has shown that while the TPP would be more successful if China participated in it, the benefits to China are intangible. In October 2015, Indonesian President Joko Widodo declared Indonesia's intention to join the TPP. History: Trans-Pacific Strategic Economic Partnership Agreement. Brunei, Chile, Singapore and New Zealand are parties to the Trans-Pacific Economic Partnership Agreement, which was signed in 2005, and entered into force in 2006. The original TPP agreement contains an accession clause and affirms the members' commitment to encourage the accession to this agreement by other economies. It is a comprehensive agreement, affecting trade in goods, rules of origin, trade remedies, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, technical barriers to trade, trade in services, intellectual property, government procurement and competition policy. Among other things, it called for a reduction by 90% of all tariffs between member countries by the 1st of January 2006. And reduction of all trade tariffs to zero by the year 2015. Although original and negotiating parties are members of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, the TPSEP is not an APEC initiative. However, the TPP is considered to be a pathfinder for the proposed free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, an APEC initiative. Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations. In January 2008, the U.S. agreed to enter into talks with the Pacific Four members regarding trade liberalization in financial services. This led to 19 formal negotiation rounds, then a series of other meetings, such as chief negotiators meetings and ministers meetings, leading to the agreement that was announced on the 5th of October 2015. For details on the negotiations process, see Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations. Contents: a version of the text of the agreement, subject to legal review, was released by prospective member parties on 5 November 2015. Portions of drafts of the full agreement were previously leaked to the public. Many of the provisions in the leaked documents are modeled on previous trade and deregulation agreements. U.S. Trade Representatives Summary. According to the United States Trade Representative, the TPP agreement includes the following features: comprehensive market access. The TPP eliminates or reduces tariff and non-tariff barriers across substantially all trade in goods and services and covers the full spectrum of trade, including goods and services trade and investment, so as to create new opportunities and benefits for our businesses, workers, and consumers. Regional approach to commitments. The TPP facilitates the development of production and supply chains, and seamless trade, enhancing efficiency and supporting our goal of creating and supporting jobs, raising living standards, enhancing conservation efforts, and facilitating cross-border integration, as well as opening domestic markets, addressing new trade challenges. The TPP promotes innovation, productivity, and competitiveness by addressing new issues, including the development of the digital economy, and the role of state-owned enterprises in the global economy. Inclusive trade. The TPP includes new elements that seek to ensure that economies at all levels of development and businesses of all sizes can benefit from trade. It includes commitments to help small and medium-sized businesses understand the agreement, take advantage of its opportunities, and bring their unique challenges to the attention of the TPP governments. It also includes specific commitments on development and trade capacity building, to ensure that all parties are able to meet the commitments in the agreement and take full advantage of its benefits. Platform for regional integration. The TPP is intended as a platform for regional economic integration and designed to include additional economies across the Asia-Pacific region. The TPP Agreement includes 30 chapters. Initial provisions and general definitions, trade in goods, textiles and apparel, rules of origin, customs administration and trade facilitation, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, technical barriers to trade, trade remedies, investment, cross-border trade in services, financial services, temporary entry for business persons, telecommunications, electronic commerce, government procurement, competition policy, state-owned enterprises and designated monopolies, intellectual property, labor, environment, cooperation and capacity building, competitiveness and business facilitation, development, small and medium-sized enterprises, regulatory coherence, transparency and anti-corruption, administrative and institutional provisions, dispute settlement, exceptions, final provisions, tariffs and other barriers. The agreement would reduce 18,000 tariffs. Tariffs on all U.S. manufactured goods and almost all U.S. farm products would be eliminated completely, with most eliminations occurring immediately. In addition, the agreement mandates expedited customs procedures for express shipments and prohibits customs duties from being applied to electronic transmissions. It also requires additional privacy, security, and consumer protections for online transactions and encourages the publication of online customs forms. These provisions are expected to be particularly beneficial to small businesses. Intellectual property provisions. The intellectual property section of the leaked draft of the TPP lays out a minimum level of protections signatories must enforce for trademarks, copyright, and patents. Trademarks may be visual, auditory or sense, and are granted exclusive use for trade. Copyright is granted at a length of life of author plus 70 years, and makes willful circumvention of protections illegal. The TPP also establishes that making available is the exclusive right of the copyright owner. As of December 2011, some provisions relating to the enforcement of patents and copyrights alleged to be present in the U.S. proposal for the agreement had been criticized as being excessively restrictive, beyond those in the Korea-U.S. trade agreement and anti-counterfeiting trade agreement. WikiLeaks has published draft documents on a regular basis since 2013. On 13 November 2013, it published a complete draft of the treaty's intellectual property rights chapter. On 16 October 2014, it released a second updated version of the TPP intellectual property rights chapter. On 9 October 2015, WikiLeaks published the final TPP intellectual property chapter. Investor-state arbitration. Investor-state dispute settlement is an instrument of public international law that grants an investor the right to use dispute settlement proceedings against a foreign government. Chapter 9, Section B of the TPP Agreement is on investor-state dispute settlement. According to the nation's interpretation of leaked documents in 2012, countries would be required to conform their domestic laws and regulations to the TPP agreement, which includes provisions on government spending in certain areas. As of 2012, U.S. negotiators were pursuing an investor-state dispute settlement mechanism, also known as corporate tribunals, which according to the nation can be used to attack domestic public interest laws. This mechanism, a common provision in international trade and investment agreements, grants an investor the right to initiate dispute settlement proceedings against a foreign government in their own right under international law. For example, if an investor invests in country A, a member of a trade treaty, and country A breaches that treaty, then the investor may sue country A's government for the breach. In 2013, the Australian government's position against investor-state dispute settlement has been argued to support the rule of law and national energy security. On 26 March 2015, WikiLeaks released a draft of the TPP's investment chapter, according to which global corporations could sue governments in tribunals organized by the World Bank or the United Nations to obtain compensation from them for loss of expected future profits due to government actions. In April 2015, the director of Public Citizens Global Trade Watch, Laurie Wallach, said, "We consider it inappropriate to elevate an individual investor or company to equal status with a nation-state to privately enforce a public treaty between two sovereign countries. ISDS gives extraordinary new privileges and powers and rights to just one interest. Foreign investors are privileged vis-à-vis domestic companies, vis-à-vis the government of a country, and vis-à-vis other private sector interests. The basic reality of ISDS. It provides foreign investors alone access to non-U.S. courts to pursue claims against the U.S. government on the basis of broader substantive rights than U.S. firms are afforded under U.S. law." On 5 October 2015, economists Joseph Stiglitz and Adam S. Hirsch questioned the ISDS provisions of the TPP. "To be sure," they wrote, "investors, wherever they call home, deserve protection from expropriation or discriminatory regulations. But ISDS goes much further. The obligation to compensate investors for losses of expected profits can and has been applied even where rules are non-discriminatory and profits are made from causing public harm." Imagine what would have happened if these provisions had been in place when the lethal effects of asbestos were discovered. Rather than shutting down manufacturers and forcing them to compensate those who had been harmed under ISDS, governments would have had to pay the manufacturers not to kill their citizens. Taxpayers would have been hit twice, first to pay for the health damage caused by asbestos, and then to compensate manufacturers for their lost profits when the government stepped in to regulate a dangerous product. Stiglitz also claimed that the TPP would give oil companies the right to sue governments for loss of profits due to efforts to reduce carbon emissions and global warming. The Australian plain packaging laws have inspired similar bills in New Zealand and other countries worldwide. Despite constant opposition from the Australian tobacco industry on the grounds of intellectual property, technical barriers to trade, best practices of regulation, etc., as far back as 2013, it has been argued that embedding these principles in the TPP will allow the tobacco industry in many countries to have more power. In October 2015, it was announced that ISDS laws would not apply to tobacco industries. Implications. Joshua Meltzer of the Brookings Institution, an American think tank, gave testimony to the House Small Business Committee on the implications of the TPP. During the hearing, entitled U.S. Trade Strategy: What's Next for Small Business Exports?, Meltzer stated that as of 2012 the Asia-Pacific region accounted for 60% of global GDP and 50% of international trade, and is the fastest-growing region in the world. The Brookings Institution estimated in 2012 that TPP would generate $5 billion in economic benefits to the U.S. in 2015, and $14 billion in 2025. The economic benefits would likely be larger if the impact of investment liberalization under TPP were also considered. The TPP should generate growth opportunities for small and medium business exporters in the U.S., which represented 40% of U.S. goods exports as of 2012. Small businesses tend to benefit disproportionately from trade liberalization, since they are less likely than large enterprises to establish overseas subsidiaries to overcome trade barriers. The TPP will also help counter the trend toward greater economic integration, which excludes the U.S., in the Asia-Pacific region. For example, ASEAN already has free trade agreements with China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand, and the U.S. has been excluded from economic cooperation among ASEAN Plus 3. CNN reported that one goal of TPP is to neutralize China's power in global trading and make American companies more competitive. In May 2013, China showed an interest in joining TPP and may see it as an opportunity for its slowing economy. According to the New York Times, the clearest winners of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement would be American agriculture, along with technology and pharmaceutical companies, insurers and many large manufacturers, who could expand exports to the other nations that have signed the treaty. Along with the TPP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership has been a possible pathway to a free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, and a contribution to building momentum for global trade reform. Both the RCEP and TPP have involved negotiations with multiple parties and sectors. In January 2016, the National Association of Manufacturers announced its support for TPP, saying, "Without such an agreement, the United States would be ceding economic leadership to other global powers, letting them set the rules of economic engagement in the region."